So, I want to talk to you guys about something very, very important. And this will really help you if you're feeling stuck in life and you're just like, why are things not working out the way I want to? Even though, like, I might be ambitious, I might have big dreams, I have, all these goals I want to achieve in life, but I'm just in the same loop over and over again, and things are just not working out for me. So, this video will help you with that. And that's the idea of your mindset being the source of either your achievement, your success in life, or the reason for your destruction and your suffering. Now, you might take that you might take that the wrong way and being like, oh, like, so it's my mindset that's like creating all these problems in my life. It's not like all these different reasons, like, other people, like external events, circumstances. Yes, that's the simplest way to understand it. And I want to, a lot of you guys might have heard the statement where, like, um, life doesn't happen to you, or it happens for you. So let me say that again. Life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And a lot of people, like, they say that, but they don't really go into what that means and how to break that down and how to really put that in practical terms. And I want to offer an Islamic perspective on this because I am Muslim, and that's something that just me being, virtue of me being Muslim and really understanding my religion, that's something that's really helped me with my mindset. I'm not saying I'm perfect by any means, but it definitely has given me a framework, and I want to share that with you. So even if you're not Muslim or you're not, like, super into religion, still listen to this because it will help you understand how to put this into practical application for your own life. So in Islam, we have this idea of looking at whatever happens in your life, not looking at the event itself, but looking at your reaction to it. So, say something negative happens in your life, and let's just use the example of, like, you losing your job. The way you respond to that dictates whether that's a punishment or a test. And there's even, like, degrees to understanding that. So if your reaction to you losing your job is, why did this happen, God's angry with me, like, what's God's unfair, all these, like, all these different statements and stuff, then that's a punishment. And I should also add that what your reaction to that is that you become more obstinate and you become more rebellious, and you're just like, you start doing, various things because you're just so angry. You lash out at other people, or like you do some shady business practices just because you need to get some money in the door. That's your reaction to that is, a very surefire way of seeing that occurrence as a punishment because it led to your disobedience to God. But a step above that is you being neutral in terms of, like, okay, I lost my job. It's not like the best thing that happened in the world, but you don't, like, elevate from that point either. But you're just like, okay, like, let me try to figure this out. But you're still going through it, and you're kind of neutral. That's like you kind of break even with that, and it would be a test. A step above even that is looking at this negative occurrence, this negative event in your life, and actually being thankful for it. And that's a very high place to be at for anyone, whether you're Muslim or not, to look at every negative thing in your life and being thankful for it, or at least, at the very least, using that as the springboard, as the means for you becoming a better person. So, with this example of you losing your job, you become thankful, and you're just like, okay, like, now I appreciate what having a job actually meant. Like, now, okay, like, I wasn't, because I was so busy with this job, I wasn't, like, taking care of my family, I wasn't spending time with my kids. Let me do that. Or I wasn't reading as much Quran, or I wasn't, like, praying as intently as I should because I was always, like, worried about missing my meetings and stuff. Let me focus on that. Let me do that because I have the free time while I'm looking for something else in the meantime. That would be the highest station, and that's a very difficult place for anyone to be. um, but that's what you'll see is that it's all about your mindset. It's all about how you approach what happens to you. So when it comes to you being an ambitious person, and you're just like, oh, I want to make, X amount of money, or I want to be have this, this kind of physique, or I just want to have this kind of certain life set up in my life. You not being able to achieve that is you looking at some aspect of what you're trying to achieve with a negative lens. And it would take a lot of introspection, a lot of self-reflection to really dig into what that is. But that would be a worthwhile exercise because one way to look at these things, these mental frameworks that happen in our minds all the time is in kind of looking at them as locks on a door. You're trying to open this door. You're trying to, like, you're banging on it. You're taking a sledgehammer to it, but it's just not opening. And it's just taking a step back and being like, okay, there's a lock on this. Where's the key? I just need the key. Once I get that, it'll open up. It's that simple sometimes. And I've had moments like this where I'm just like, I take a step back. I'm like, okay, like, why am I failing at this? Why am I going at this? I'm putting effort towards it, but it's just like, it's not opening up for me. And, I take a step back and I'm like, okay, am I approaching this the right way? Am I putting am I putting Allah first as opposed to fixating on this thing? Because that's another thing, when we go about life and we're chasing these different things, sometimes those things don't come to us because it's us veering away from the true purpose of life, which is focusing on Allah. Because at the end of the day, good or bad, whether you're homeless or you're like, the richest person on the planet, if you don't have Allah, then nothing matters. But if you do have Allah and He is the sole focus of your life, regardless of whatever you have going on in your external environment, then you've won. Like, the external things, like, they hold no meaning essentially. Now that might be something that's very difficult for your mind to grasp because you're just like, oh, like, that's all I see. That's what dictates my life, and you have to take a step back from that. You have to give yourself that mental release in terms of, like, okay, where's Allah in this picture? Am I even conscious of Him? Or am I just mindlessly, like, going about my day on autopilot just because, that's what's expected of me? And that's another thing that a lot of men kind of, they, just by virtue of us being men, is something we struggle with, is just getting fixated on, like, the task at hand and not taking a step back and looking at, okay, what's the bigger picture here? Am I approaching this with the right mindset? Am I looking at this in broader context and in terms of, like, the reality of life? So that would be the first thing, just understanding what is your response to this thing that's happening in your life. And it could be multiple things that are happening in your life. Break them down. If you have to write them down in terms of, like, what you're struggling with, what's occupying your mind every single day, write them down and just put, like, a one, like a check mark if your mindset is super positive on that, or an X, or like a dash or a line if you're like neutral with it. And just analyze, like, look at that scoreboard. Just assess your mindset, your response to these things in terms of a scoreboard. Like, okay, is it mostly X's? Okay, like, maybe I need to take a step back and actually just, like, evaluate my life, and am I being ungrateful? That's another huge thing that a lot of people they struggle with, because they're just like, what do I have, like, how can I be grateful in this situation? Going back to the example of, like, you losing a job, like, why should I be grateful for this? Like, this is terrible because I lost my only source of income. I was supporting my family. I was doing all these things. Why should I be grateful for this? The reality of life is that, in terms of an Islamic context, everything in life, there's always something to be grateful for, even in the suffering, especially in the suffering. You might not see it, you might not understand it, and you might get to the end of your life and you never truly understand why that thing happened in your life. But you just have to understand that everything in your life is a springboard to your judgment in the afterlife, to you standing before Allah and telling Him, like, okay, you gave me all these different tests in life, and I responded the best way I could. I was grateful because I understood that it wasn't about this life. It was about, like, me showing up on the day of judgment and you being pleased with me, regardless of what you send my way. And that very well could be, like, your ticket to paradise. Not so much like the amount of, like, worship you did, or how much you help people and all this kind of stuff. But there's an ayah, a verse in the Quran, which says that we, meaning Allah, rewards the patient ones without measure. Like, that's the general meaning of that verse. And that's huge because you can't put a numerical value on patience or just perseverance, because in a lot of situations, regardless of the intensity of task or the adversity we face, sometimes those things they never go away. Like until our dying moments, like it just occupies us, and maybe it loses its grasp because we mature and we understand that okay, this is how life works. Things come to us, and we just don't get our way in life. So for you to live with a certain thing for the entirety of your life, the only appropriate reward for that would be something that's endless because you dealt with something that occupied your mind 24/7. So to kind of recap, well, like what I've talked about so far, one, look at your responses to the things that happen in your life. Are you judging? Are you responding negatively? Are you kind of like lashing out because of what happened? Or are you actually trying to find the gratitude and trying to find the positive in what's happening? And then the second thing to really help with this is to adopt a gratitude focused mindset. To always find something that you can be grateful for, and something that you could also do, especially if you're Muslim, is whenever something happens negative in life, just say Alhamdulillah. Which, for anyone who doesn't know Arabic, it just means all praise is due to Allah, to God. Just say that simple phrase. You never know. I've thought about this a lot. You never know the reason why that thing happened, like a small inconvenience, like you like losing your keys or something, and you having trained yourself to say Alhamdulillah whenever these things happen. Maybe the reason that happened was so you could say Alhamdulillah. I don't think a lot of us we put those things together, and that only happens when you've trained yourself to get to that point where like okay, this thing happened, Alhamdulillah. It, and this is so critical because I've talked about this before. When the people of paradise they get to paradise, the only moments they will regret are not the moments of like hardship or like when they were going through suffering. It will be the moments in which they did not remember Allah. And you never know the thing that happened to you, and you remembering Allah, just saying His name even, that could be something that you'll look back on when you're in the afterlife, and like okay, like I remembered Allah. That moment it became crystallized as something just invaluable, priceless. Because at the end of the day, we have to understand that this life is not it. It's cool, it's fancy, like we can strive towards a bunch of things, and we can get a lot of things if we put our mind to it, and if it's what's good for us. But at the end of the day, when we get to the afterlife, and this is something we all have to think about, this life will seem like just moments. In the Quran it describes like it'll just seem like a day or like half a day. Imagine someone living 80, 90, 100 years and are having a perfect life where they went through minimal suffering and they had everything set up and they worked hard and they had a fulfilling life and they had meaningful relationships and everything worked out for them. But them getting to the end of life, to the afterlife, and just viewing it like, okay, that was just a few moments. That will be because the afterlife is eternal, it's endless. There is no end to it. So, and that would be the final thing that I want to talk about is that you want to put this life in perspective. If you are struggling with getting ahead in certain areas of life, just understand that you putting effort is something that's required of you. Obviously, you have to put in the effort to get, let's use fitness as an example. You have to put in the work. You have to go to the gym. You have to eat right. You have to get your protein and all this kind of stuff. But why am I doing this in the first place? Like, what's the intention? I want to leave you guys with this. What is your intention behind doing these things? Is it solely for achieving something out of this life in terms of like, okay, like I'll get like a nice physique and that will help me attract a wife, and like people will look up to me and my friends will finally respect me? Is that your motivation? Because if it is, again, it might not be wrong. Like, I won't tell you that that's wrong, but is it ideal? Is that the way you should approach life? Or is your intention, I have been blessed with functioning limbs, I have arms, legs, I have all these different things. Let me take care of them. Let me develop them to their fullest capacity because Allah, He loves perfection. He loves excellence in everything. Let me start with my own physique. Let me get my own body in shape. Let me not put, unhealthy foods. Let me not stay up till like 2 a.m. just wasting time, like, drowning my eyes in blue light. Let me not, just lay around all day and not put in some time, devote some time to exercise. And let me do all of this because this is just me taking care of the gift that Allah has given me. That's another huge thing that a lot of people, myself included, we just do not think about enough, is that a lot of things in our life are gifts. There was no reason for me to have functioning eyes right now. No, like, I was born with functioning eyes, and I pray that Allah, keeps these eyes for me and He doesn't take them away. But I didn't do anything to have perfect eyesight or just to have eyesight at all. Meanwhile, I know that multiple people just like me, 29-year-old men around the world, do not have eyesight. They were born blind. Did they do something wrong? Was it their fault? No, of course not. That was just their test in life. So for us to, have this negative mindset when it comes to our goals and be like, oh, like, things are not working because, this, and that, a huge part of it is just us. It goes back to ingratitude. Like, we're just so ungrateful. We're just like, if you were to truly just like take a step back and just be like, wow, I have functioning eyes. I can see what's happening in the world. Or I have hands. I have hands. Like, when you take a step back and you're just like, oh, like, I have a phone. I have a voice. I can speak. Like, these things, like, yes, there's no, like, technical thing that you can really apply here. It's just all about taking a step back and just really trying to appreciate what life is all about and what you've been given. And once you start realizing this, like, once you start really reconnecting with Allah and what He's given you, like, you'll feel this like drive emerge out of nowhere, because you're like, I've been giving so much. I would have to be a dumbass to not make the most of this. Like, there are people who have not been given this, and they have the excuse before Allah to be like, okay, like, why didn't you like create a YouTube channel? Well, I didn't have eyes. I couldn't create anything. I couldn't, create this kind of stuff. But you do. So it becomes even more important for you to take advantage of the gifts that have been given to you and use them to benefit not only yourself, but others. And always with the intention of pleasing Allah and bringing this as something that you can present to Him as like, hey, like, I did this because I wanted to please you, and I know that providing for myself and making the full use of my gifts is something that's pleasing to you. So please accept this. That's the mindset that we need to strive for. And I'm not saying I'm there. That's something that we're all going to be a work in progress when it comes to this. But that's something we should strive for. Everything that we do, small or big, whatever it is, always look at it as like, how can I turn this into something that I can present to Allah, and I hope that He accepts, and just make the most out of this, maximize the gift that I've been given. So guys, take this to heart. Really understand what I'm trying to tell you here. If you're not religious, if you're not Muslim, don't take this as like, oh, like, this doesn't apply to me. Look at the deeper lessons, because what I shared, it's applicable to everyone, regardless of who you are, coming to this video. So really take a look at this, understand what you've been given in life, and start right now. Start maximizing whatever gifts you've been given, and make sure that you can go to bed every single night with the relief that, okay, like, I did what I could. I just need to do better than this tomorrow. So guys, I hope you like this video. If you are looking for fitness coaching, I have put out a full 30-minute breakdown of how one of my clients lost 24.5 pounds in 180 days. Go to my channel, you'll find it there. It's the first video, it pops up for everyone. But regardless, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions at all. And with that being said, I'll catch you in the next one.